Oh, I knew someone was going to ask about Chaz. I think that the whole Chaz deal is really, 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 really. Uh, it's a powerful descriptive teaching tool just for exactly how uh, we've sort of been conditioned to think about politics and society on the internet. It's this absolute this thing that you look at, and it's happening in front of you. And even in an era when we're all claiming total knowledge of everything, right? Because everything is at the click of a fingertips. Obviously, we can know anything pretty well to make. Certainly, we know everything well enough to have fucking opinions on them. How many people wrap so much of themselves around opinions about foreign policy and things happening in countries they've never been to, where they speak languages they don't know, but they still feel confident enough because of their their access to information, that they know enough to have really strong opinions about it. And so the Chaz has happened. I'm across the country. Most of the people commenting about it one way or the other are not there. So I don't really know what's going on there. I have heard everything that everyone has heard, that it's like that it's this dual power bastion of communalized living, that it's a glorified I'm sorry, that it's just a glorified park with some infrastructure added collectively, that it's a Mad Maxian hellscape of warlords and and like robber kings, SoundCloud rapping dictators, like a V.S. Naipaul story. And I'm of course certain that most of the information I'm getting about it is not correct or is motivated in some way or another by the people who are proffering it. Certainly all the stuff about how scary and dangerous it is, the police have every interest in amplifying that. But so the stream comes out, the stream of information about Chaz comes out, and people, depending on their perspective on things like anarchism versus communism, or reformism versus revolution, or electoralism versus direct action, or people who have strong opinions on these different strands of leftist infighting, they're going to come to the Chaz with their predetermined perspective that it's either a pathetic waste of time or the first green shoots of a revolutionary tradition that's going to carry on the work of the Paris Commune. And they're operating off of the exact same informational base, right? And they're doing the same thing without knowing it, which is every piece of evidence that they see that countermands their idea of what the Chaz is subject to rigorous, brutal scrutiny. Who said this? Where'd this come from? Who said what? What was the motivation? Are we sure it's not a cop? What's going on? And anything that confirms what you already wanted to think about Chaz, I'm sure you'll give it a little bit of due diligence if you're trying to be serious and getting your takes perfectly sharpened, but you're not going to give it anywhere near the scrutiny that you gave the information that was against what you thought about Chaz. And so that means that you have these people fighting over Chaz on the internet that is literally fighting over two caricatured puppet versions of the thing that's being discussed, the shadow versions. And of course that's always the case. But to see it happen right in front of us, and to see the conventional wisdoms immediately coalesce, and how the same informational stream is tailored to one or the other, it doesn't give you a lot of hope for the idea that the internet is on balance better for social organizing, because the theory is always, oh, you can get information to people, but they're filtering that. As that information is getting filtered through all these baffles, it's being controlled by privatized corporate interests. It's directed towards profit, and it's being consumed by people who have been further acculturated away from being able to recognize true from false information. So I would say I don't know enough of what's going on at Chaz. I wish them well, certainly. I don't want them to all get beat up or anything, or anybody to get shot by the National Guard. I don't think that it is any kind of real commune. Apparently they're not actually occupying any buildings, and they don't have independent access to things like electricity and sewage and stuff like that. And if you don't have that ability, you're not really independent in any way from the state. You're there essentially at the sufferance of the state, which can be withdrawn at any moment. And that, I mean, that violates any meaningful definition of independence or autonomy. If it can be rescinded at any time, unilaterally, then you don't really have autonomy. But I mean, I don't think at this point a lot of people are actually claiming it is. They're hopefully pointing out that this is one more unprecedented thing in a year of unprecedented things, which means that the old assumptions about what's possible are not holding, and it would be foolish to hold on to, in fact, given how fluid everything is. And I agree with that. It's just that doesn't necessarily arc in only the positive direction. It can mean unprecedented in every direction. Yeah, that's very good. That's very funny. I saw a picture of the farm they have, like, and it does look like the Matt Damon potato poop farm that he had inside the little thing in The Martian. I mean, okay, this is a good question. Is the illusion of their autonomous useful for future direct action? It's the question of that. The question of like self-hypnosis and the enchanting yourself towards a goal is more complicated than it appears, because you can say people need to believe in order to act, and that's 100% true. You have to believe in order to act. Now, part of that is motivated by selfless sort of love, a universal love that allows for your personal body to be sacrificed for a greater good. But since we're not a really spiritual culture, much more of it is, I want to do good in the world, make things better, see things get better. And that is a completely different animal. And that is much less harder to inculcate because of how hard everything appears to be, how few options for change seem to be effective or even within grasp. That means that people have less motivation to push forward. So there has to be a degree of self-delusion. We have to all delude ourselves a little bit, or else nothing can change by definition. But if you delude yourself too much, it fucks up your deliberative process, and you end up putting all that effort towards the wrong things. It's very difficult, and I don't have an answer. And I think it comes down to the degree to which you balance all of these things, the degree to which you balance your investment in one thing with your at least awareness of others.